Lights, camera.
Hello, I'm Karen Covell at the Hollywood Prayer Network, and I want to thank you for joining us for this very special conversation with my dear friend Michael Klausman. Mike has recently retired after 55 years working in the entertainment business, most recently as the president of CBS Studio Center and Television City. During his time there, Mike helped bring to life the iconic shows and movies, including Seinfeld, That 70s Show, and Doctor Strange, among countless others. He also was able to turn the studio's financial situation around, from them losing $6 million a year to making $45 million a year. Although his accomplishments are amazing, Mike is known most of all as a man of great faith and love for God. He deeply cares for the people he works with, his family, and is abundantly generous to his community. He has been a longtime friend and partner of HPN, and we are thrilled to have him share his story with us. So join us as we talk with Mike to hear his story, learn from his wisdom, and be inspired by his faith. This is a total honor. This is so great. I know you don't like this, but I know you have made an eternal difference in the industry. And I want to just talk to you today about your perspective of it, because other people can look at you and say, you've done all these things and you're so amazing and you've led this group and you've run the studio. But I think it's interesting for people to know your perspective on everything that you've done in your career here at CBS, which has been your whole career almost at CBS, right? Mm-hmm. You got here and started as a page. And I want you to start by telling that story, because I understand that's the only job you applied for.
The only one. Matter of fact, I didn't even really apply for that. I was told there was an opening. It was in 1971, and a gentleman by the name of Tim Berry. I was pre-med, and we were in our anatomy class and cutting up frogs and stuff. And I said, I got to kind of find a job. He said, I'll get you on as a page at CBS. He was one of the head pages. And so I went in and pretty much just filled out the paperwork and got the job. And it didn't take too much of a resume to get a job as a page. And so then I continued to work on at CBS, and he left. He started up a new show. He got hired as a runner on a new show called Cheers.
Oh.
And he ended up becoming one of the executive producers later.
Wow. So what happened to the medical career? You only took that job to make money to get through medical school?
Yeah, I was pre-med at the time, finishing up. Becky and I, we had a baby. It was about 4 years in. I was just about finished with school. And I couldn't get into med school because at that time, the affirmative action just started. And my grades were pretty good, but not good enough because the standards had changed a little bit. And it was good. It was a good move. The Supreme Court, it was a great move for the United States. Mm-hmm. But it caused me to have a choice of going to Mexico to try to get my doctor to become a doctor and learn Spanish and Latin and stuff at the same time. And it was too much, and a little baby on the way. So when Tim got me the job, I decided to stay there. God opened that door and just put me in it.
Wow. Do you ever miss not being a doctor?
No, I get sick now when I see the blood and stuff. No, I'm pretty good in emergencies, but I don't think I would have. When I had a cancer surgery, after that I became kind of queasy. So no, I'm not.
It worked out. And
actually, financially, it's probably a little better, can I say. But no, I don't regret it. But I still can speak very well on the scientific side.
Oh, that's great. Well, tell your phases from how long were you a page and then what happened next?
I was a page for a couple of years. And then I worked in the videotape library. I was hired to go in there, and there you schlepped tapes, got them ready for the old CMX editing, 2-inch tapes, and then it was 1-inch tapes, and then it was 3/4 tapes, and then no tapes. And we worked in there, and then I was moved to scheduling, which is an operation that schedules all the equipment and all the people at CBS tells me where to go and when to come in and stuff like that. And then after that, they moved me up into the production area where I was in charge of all the production supervisors. And no, I went to the broadcasting first. Then I was a broadcast operation manager, so I got to watch Captain Kangaroo and all the soaps every day for a couple of years. And I learned all about the broadcasting side. Then I moved to the production side, and all the production supervisors were basically our contact with production on stage, and I was in charge of them. And then they moved me to Studio Center, and then back to TV City, and then they moved me out. So that's a short glimpse of all this stuff.
I was going to say, you skipped a few years, in
Yeah.
47 years, yes, and then they moved you out.
Yeah.
What was your favorite job all along the way?
Well, to be honest with you, Karen, they were all favorite because, I don't know, early on, and I'm not going to get preachy. I'm just a regular guy. But God showed me that He's not going to move me until I was happy and satisfied in a job. So every job that I took was my end job. Okay? And when God said it's time to move, He moved me. And I've never had to, be honest with you, I never had to worry about moving. That's why I told you I never applied for a job. Is somebody heard about me, somebody saw me, God put me in a position where He opened the door, and then He moved me. Matter of fact, I'll give you a story if you want to hear a story.
Oh, I do.
So, Alan Alda, you know who he is, right? Mm-hmm. All right. So, I'm in scheduling, one of the lowest jobs there. I'm on weekends because I'm the lowest totem pole. I'm working there. My job is to schedule edit machines and edit suites. Well, he was doing a special for CBS, I think with Carol Burnett, called 6 Rooms Review. Big thing. Big
Yeah,
project.
oh, I know that one.
So here I am sitting all by myself in this suite that usually has 15 people in it. And the door opens, I look up, and I'm sitting there doing charts and doing stuff. And it was Alden Alda, I mean, here's a start, and a good start, nice guy, MASH, all that stuff. And so I'm dumbstruck, he comes in, he says, they told me over in videotape to come see you that I got a real problem. And I said, well, what can I do for you? Because I didn't know what I could do for him. Yeah. And he says, well, listen, our editing's running long, and I'm going to have to, we got to expand our editing time. We got to work all night. We got to do this and that. And I said, well, let me see what I can do. Well, there was nothing scheduled on the suite for 2 days. The editors that were doing it loved overtime. They didn't work as much. So I said, guys, Alan's in trouble. Mr. Alda's in trouble. I call him Alan. Mr. Alda was in trouble. And can you guys stay? No problem. No problem. So I went back and said, okay, you've got the suite as long as you want it. And give them some breaks and just keep editing until you finish. So I was off Monday and Tuesday because I work weekends. I come in on Wednesday, and I got a call on Tuesday at home. He says, listen, we have a meeting with the president. I go, what? And so on Wednesday I came in. My boss took me up to see the president of the studio and the president of the entertainment division. And they said, what happened over the weekend? And I said, now I'm thinking, what have I done? What did I do? And I said, why? He says, well, did you have a situation with Mr. Alda, Alan Alda? And I said, oh yeah, he came in. He came in, and I got him some edit time. He goes, he says he's told us that you saved the show from getting on air, and he was so appreciative when we wanted to tell you thanks. It was those kind of things that God, I mean, it wasn't because I was smart, intelligent, aggressive, and it was just God opens. And from that, they noticed me, okay? And so from then on, that's just, how doors open, huh?
Well, you're a problem solver, and you don't say no. And I think that's an attitude of confidence, of saying, yeah, there's a problem, let's just fix it, instead of somebody who's thinking, am I allowed to do that? Is that a part of my job? Should I say, it's easier to say no than it is to say yes and solve it. And yet, look at that. Is that the time that they skipped and give you another job that was like skipping all these other people? What was that one?
In a matter of 6 months. They just moved me to the head of operation. First, I went to the broadcast, like I mentioned. They just moved me, and then I jumped. I jumped a ton of times. Every time I jumped, they just moved me.
And also, my understanding is you're not ambitious. You're just faithful. Did you have goals along the way of, I want to get to this point, or do you just wanted to be really great at what you did? I love that attitude about, I wouldn't move until I was really happy with where I was.
Yeah.
So what were your goals?
Well, to provide for my family. I really, when we got married, but when Becky and I got married, I didn't really know about kids and didn't know if I wanted them. I mean, it was just, I didn't think about it. But she wanted to have kids. So we started having kids. I found out they were great. So I guess a goal I had was just make enough to feed these guys, put a house over us, and go like this. One of the few goals that I did have was to be, I think it was by when I was 30, I wanted to make $30,000. And back then, that was a big deal. It was a nice wage, and I met it, but that was years ago. So that was one of the few goals. I really like to, Karen. I really like to excel in the job I'm doing and be the best. I want people to say he was the best at what he did, and if money and so-called fame came along, that's fine. But the goal was just, if my job was to make money in the studio, then I'm going to make the most that I can make. I really didn't have that kind of self-motivated kind of thing. It was just, it came along, it followed along.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's so amazing. Well, going back to your family, so you had 5 children. 4 of them are yours, and one, you tell me about starting to get into fostering and then adopting your son. Tell me that story of how you both got into that.
Well, Beck and I wanted to adopt, and we felt it was, God told us that we thought it would be good. We had 3 kids at that time, 3 girls, and we wanted to try and get a little son. So we set out to adopt, and there was all kinds. Back then, it was a little harder to adopt than it was now. And we found a kid that we really, really liked. He'd been abused in foster care, and so we adopted. We found a little African American kid, and back then they weren't really pro a white family having a Afro, or it
any direction, the mix, yes,
But he had real problems physically, and so CBS was good to me, and the government was good to me. The adoption agencies, we had to get some surgeries for him and stuff, and they wanted us to have him, and we got him. Well, in order to get him, I had to have my license, because he had to be a foster child for a certain amount. So once we got our license, then we opened the door to foster kids too. So we had Troy, and I think we had 4 or 5 or 6, and we took the infant range. We had the infants through 2 or 3 years. So we had more kids running in that house than you can imagine. But we were foster parents, and we adopted Troy, yeah.
Wow. And how is Troy today?
Troy's great. Troy works on the lot. He's a journeyman. He's a landscaper here on the lot in the labor union, and he loves this place. But he works here on the lot.
So this is still his home. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, that's part of your legacy.
Yeah, he's the only one that's followed me in entertainment. I've got a writer, a published writer. I've got a lawyer. I've got a psychologist. I've got a senior pastor and a water polo coach. He's both. And matter of fact, his Biola University just won their Division II title of water polo, and
he's the coach
in their 3rd year. He's an assistant coach with
Biola.
With Rick. Yeah, and Micah's really good, and he's a great preacher. Matter of fact, we had we go in the spa at least probably once a week. I go every night, and he comes when he comes over. When his birthday last night, and so we talk about all kinds of biblical stuff. And last night was about the origin of creationists versus evolutionists and all that.
Just a little conversation in the spa.
But no, we do. We have a good time, and he's smart as a whip.
Oh, isn't that great? So how did you balance a very busy job with your family and all the kids and all the activities and church and everything? How did you balance all of that?
Well, I didn't very well. I think one of my kids once said they would have told me once later in life that they would have probably appreciated me being home more. But back then, I hate to say it, but my wife took care of the home, and I brought, I worked. And so my hours were long, but I came home. But we did a lot of vacations and weekends at home, but even the kids complain about that because on the weekends when we're washing cars, I get them to wash it. They said, "You're home 2 days, you make us work and stuff and rake the leaves and stuff." But it was a hard balance. The entertainment business it could be early in the morning until late at night. When the shuttle exploded, or something like that, a news event or a sporting event like the Super Bowl, we could be off and running and gone for weeks at a time, or up late and all nights and stuff. So that's the business I was in. So I didn't balance it as well as, but that was the call of duty, I guess, at the time.
And how did you work on your marriage? You've been married 54 years now, right?
Yeah,
Tell me about how you walked through the years with Becky.
Well, you'd have to ask Becky because I think the longevity has a lot to do with her part. Is that she took on a role. She's the head of the house, and household, and she maybe not biblical, but we share responsibility. But she's the head of the house, so she's my accountant, and she's been my. I do a lot of the finance dealings with stuff like that. But I got to tell you, marriage is something that I'm proud of with Beck. Is that we talk, we resolve issues, we don't hide them or keep them in. I mean, we don't yell as much. We at least we yell now more. Well, we're deaf. Both of us are deaf, and and the kids are saying, "Why you yell?" Because I can't hear and stuff. But we talk things out, and sometimes, we're just like any normal couple. You get mad at each other every once in a while. But the old saying, "Try not to go to bed without resolving the issue." That we tried that, and that always worked. But I think there's something about she was the one that was meant for me. There's a devotion there that you look back, we've done stuff for each other that we're so thankful for it. You can't get rid of one another. So that's it.
Now, tell me, how do you bring your faith together with each other? Do you pray together? I know you go to church together. Tell me your faith life together.
Well, when I met her, she's the daughter of a pastor, okay, and her brother-in-law was the head of the youth group at my church when I was 20. And I wasn't a churchgoer, nor did I want to be, okay. But my mom and dad drugged me to church, and screaming and kicking too most of the time. It was just not my cup of tea. But I met Beck, and there was such a peace about her and such a loving grace about her. And so we dated for a time, and then she says, Mike, you got to make a commitment. She says, I love you, but pretty much she put it on the line. She said, I can't marry a guy that's not going to walk with me in the Lord. So I thought about it it wasn't overnight. I knew, being in church, I knew that I needed to. I was putting it off, because I thought religion was basically very restrictive. It's all no's. You can't do that. Back then, you couldn't go to movies. You couldn't, you couldn't go to dances at school. I never even went to my prom. I mean, I wasn't allowed to go.
Who wants that?
Yeah. So Beck says, but I had a choice. It was kind of, Mike, you're going to do what inevitably you knew was to do it, or you're going to miss out on both God and get, and a girlfriend. And so I decided. So I went and met with my brother-in-law, Bob Clark, and he went through the how to get saved and talked to me about it. And Becky had already done it, and it was and I found it was just like, it's a gift, It's God gives you a gift. It's no big deal. You're not joining a club. You're accepting a gift, and when you get the gift, you're in. And so, and I got to tell you, there's songs about it and stuff, but and I, you got a younger audience here, Karen, and I got to tell you, the burden of my sin. I can recall it that in this little room, the burden of my sin that came off my chest. I mean, it was just like the songs, it just rolled away, and I felt. And I knew it was real from that point forward. I mean, I knew it was real. And then later, I was in a Pentecostal church that was a little strange, but not. I mean, strange in that not maybe balanced. And I received the baptism of the Holy Spirit, and then I started reading the Bible and started trying to understand and that kind of thing, but it was Beck that led me into the door.
Oh my gosh! And when you had that experience with your brother-in-law, was it a slow transition or was it an immediate? Whoa! I get it.
Immediate. I said, Jesus, come into my heart, and it just, I believed it. I mean, I believed there was a God. Today, Karen, I just read a book. Was it Dan Cook called Origin? I haven't read some of Dan Cook's books.
Yes.
And it's a challenging book on atheism, and I'm a scientist, somewhat science-based. And there's so many people today that just either agnostic or atheist that just don't believe that there's a God. I'm surprised at the number of people that is. But I was also a pragmatist, Well, what if there is a God,
What does that mean?
Let's, would you rather roll the dice one way or the other? Because, it's a logical kind of thing. I mean, you're never going to prove Jesus. I mean, Jesus was here, but you're never going to prove God exists and Son of God and Virgin this and Adam and Eve. You can't. You're not going to prove anything. It's in your heart, and it's a faith thing that comes. And I'm not crazy where I believe in, God's talked to me, but not written on the walls or stuff. I mean, inspired me through the Holy Spirit and made decisions. And I think when reading the Bible, what would Jesus do? And I ask those questions before I make decisions, and they've been good decisions. But you're not going to convince a non-believer, but the Bible kind of says that there's always going to come a time in their life that a person's going to come to a realization that there's something greater. And my job has been not so much to tell it, but to be there in case they ask the question of me, why do you seem different from others? So that's kind of the answer to that.
That's it. You have lived it. You have lived it, and then somebody can come and ask you why you're different, but you don't have to push it on somebody. But just walking with the Holy Spirit in you you're different.
They should see Jesus in your eyes and your actions. I can tell you a funny story here on this lot, if you want to hear it. It's just
I do.
I don't recommend this stuff, but I smoke cigars. All right. I like cigars. I smoked since I was 40. A guy introduced me to to the chagrin of most of my family and stuff. But anyway, I smoke
Well, and
cigars.
I hear you smoke now at like 7 in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I smoke a cigar, and I like and I don't drink. I really don't drink, but I have a glass of port at night with my cigar in the spa every night. I have 2 fingers, and that's my most decadent there is.
It's bad.
But when
It's bad,
when I was smoking cigars here, I'd hide. I'd go behind a building, I'd find a little chair or something, and I'd smoke a cigar, because I didn't want to influence non-believers that I didn't know. I mean, I was told smoking, bad. Don't do it. So I was hiding one time, and a guy came around the corner, walked up to me, and said, "Are you Mike Klausman?" And I said, "Yeah." And he says, "I understand you're the president, right?" And I said, "Yeah." And I said, "I understand you're a Christian." And I said, "Yeah." And he says, "But you're smoking a cigar." And God, I said, "Where's this going? What have I done? Has my, I'm not into images, but have I ruined Christ's image? Have I diminished?" And he says, he went to a big church. He just started going to church, and they got on his case. He smoked cigarettes. He's addicted to cigarettes. And he said, I felt led to the church, but they just said, you got to get rid of the smoking before, in case he was smoking in the lot, he'd leave smoking their lot at the church as he couldn't do it. So I said, listen, I'm not getting into the pros and cons of smoking, but Jesus loves you, and all you have to do is ask him in your heart. And I'm not going around telling everybody, commit, I'm not that kind of evangelist, but I led him to the Lord just by saying, why don't you just ask Jesus in your heart, let him work out the rest. He accepted Christ right there on the bench right on the other side. I don't know what happened to him. And that doesn't permit anybody smoking cigars or cigarettes. I'm not saying that, but God will work.
He used what you loved.
God will work through you no matter who you are, and what level, and any time and any place.
And he's done that through you for decades.
Yeah. And I'm always wary. This is an honor being here talking to you. And you guys threw me a party the other night that's really nice, but I'm wary. I've read the Bible 3 or 4 times, and I'm wary of certain aspects, like, don't take the glory here and the honors here, because wait till you get up in heaven and stuff. A goal I have, and I think I mentioned it at that meeting the other night, is, when it's time, I want the angel or Jesus, whoever it is, meet me, said, "Thou good and faithful servant." So that's a goal. That's a goal. A goal and a mission that I'm still striving for. And I don't always meet that. Listen, I'm not a saint. Never meant it, never would. I'm just a regular folks, just like everybody here. I'm just a regular person. But I'm committed. When I commit, I commit. And I have doubts, like anybody else, but Jesus is real to me. God's real to me. Holy Spirit's real to me. And they've been that way since I was 20 years old, okay? And the day that I accepted Christ, they've been real to me since then.
Have you ever looked back on your faith? Have you ever questioned? Have you ever struggled or let it go for a bit?
No. Even the times when I got cancer and I was in a bad motorcycle accident when I almost died and stuff, and when Beck, my wife, has leukemia, and so she's had some bad times in the hospital. And a lot of people question, why God? Why her? Why do this and stuff? I don't know. I've never had a problem with questioning that kind of stuff. I don't really question, but it's like there are times that'll come up when you'll say, well, a non-believer will say, how can you be a Christian if you can't put in chronological order from the beginning of time to now, and, argue the fact, And sometimes I feel not capable. Never question. I'm not questioning Christ, but I feel inadequate sometimes that I can't answer other than, hey, you got to try it. Try it on. Just remember what I'm telling you. Someday when you're in trouble, someday when you can't deal with, you don't have an income coming in, or your spouse or your friend's sick or something, that you got Jesus to go to, and he'll answer the question. And the questions aren't always yes or no. Sometimes it's, wait, let's play this out. God's got a plan. You get to, I'm at a place where I don't care anymore. I don't care what people think about me, but I'm not going to change. I just have to have faith, You're
not going to compromise your life for somebody else.
No.
Yeah. Have you been in a place at work at any point where you felt like they were asking you to compromise, or you were tempted to compromise? Did that come up ever in the workplace?
Well, that's interesting you bring this up. Never in the entertainment industry have I ever been asked that. Matter of fact, the entertainment industry is so liberal, okay? They'll take anybody as long as they get the job done. They don't care what color you are, or what race, what religion, what ethnic background. They don't care. They just take you on. So no, I've never been. Of course, I was in the creative side, and you hear stories, but no. Matter of fact, the most questioned I've been is at major Christian events where I've been asked to speak. Then I'm challenged there. I was asked to speak at a big function. I think it was an NRB, or it was back in Florida, and I was at this one, and I told about just telling you what I do now. And there was a show going. Matter of fact, it's on 15, it's down there, but it's Will and Grace. The guy stands up in the middle of my speech and said, how can you profess to be a Christian and you're doing a story about homosexual? It went crazy. And people were shouting at him to sit down, and apparently he was part of an organization that's a very radical. But it forced Becky and I off the stage, and we had to be escorted to the limo to be gone because he was causing such grief. But that's just an example of how Christians have felt about my presence. And I keep telling them, if you want to look at it that way, look at it as a mission field. God called me, and I just do my best.
Thank you for joining us for our conversation with Michael Klausman. And don't forget to come back for the continuation of his story, where we hear more of how God is working in Hollywood. And to stay connected to HPN, learn more about our ministry, and follow us on our social media platforms, look at HollywoodPrayerNetwork.org.
Lights, camera.